I can see the comments now. But this has to be true, right?
Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Enjoy the video.
Hey YouTubers, that's MJ. I'm Mark, guys. We're here to talk to you guys today about some stuff that Dragon Ball Super has been really on the nose about these last couple of weeks, the last couple of arcs of this series. And although I am not a power scaler in Dragon Ball Super, although MJ has dabbled in it and he does like to play around with it, we're going to be talking about this in terms of, I guess, narrative structure and also just basic logic that Dragon Ball has, I guess, promoted at some point in its history. I'm not talking about Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, really the old school movies, the first original 13 movies of Dragon Ball Z, and that is Dragon Ball Super, at least in my opinion, MJ, is working on the Dragon Ball Z movie formula of antagonist power scaling. And what I mean by that is no matter what happens at any given point in the series, the person Goku, and probably specifically Goku at this point, I won't go that far into this discussion to talk about anyone else's thought, anyone else's power, and anything else like that. Anyone that Goku fights is stronger than the person that came before them. And I'm going to go all the way back to Dragon Ball Super's beginnings. Humble beginnings, really, at this point. Beerus. Super Saiyan Red Goku fighting Beerus at whatever given power level percentage that Beerus was actually using versus what he lied about. And then we also had Super Saiyan Blue versus Golden Frieza, obviously at a bigger level than the fight between Beerus. Then the Champa arc, where we had Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 fighting Hit, obviously stronger than the Golden Frieza situation. But when I think this actually starts to make people mad, because you can say what you want about these characters, you can say what you want about their power level, and you can talk about who's going to beat who, who's stronger than who's better at strategy than who. But really, what I think started really unraveling this logic is the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super, when we had Goku and Vegeta go into the future timeline and fight Black merge Zamasu and Zamasu himself, and now we have to deal with the Tournament of Power, who's using the same logic but in the really small amount of time as 48 minutes. And I know a lot of people might not like this, but the truth of the matter is, despite it being 48 minutes, despite characters breaking their limits and becoming stronger at each given moment, I think personally they're stronger than the last person before them. So as hard as it is to believe, Hit at one point of the Tournament of Power is weaker than Kefla. Kefla is weaker than Aniraza. Aniraza is weaker than Dispo, Topo, and Jiren. What do you think about that? Does that make any sense? And do you think people are going to be willing to accept that at any point during Dragon Ball Super's timeline?
Well, first I want to make note of this before people spam the comment sections, is that we're talking from a narrative structure. Because yes, we know for a fact that Beerus at full power could mollywop Zamasu if he really wanted to. That's, we're talking about a narrative structure here, and what real to real means is that when Goku and Frieza fought, obviously that was stronger than what was happening in the first arc, because yes, even though Beerus was suppressed, Goku had a higher transformation, obviously outputting higher power. So I just want to make note of that before people, spam the comment section with the whole Beerus stuff. So yeah, I agree with that. The narrative structure is that each villain is just superior to, or I want to use the word antagonist. Each antagonist is superior to the previous antagonist. Frieza obviously to whatever percentage of power Beerus was using. You know what I mean? Merge Zamasu, or even Goku Black, if you will. Goku Black to Hit, Merge Zamasu to Goku Black, stuff like that. Obviously, Jiren to everybody that we see so far. And I want to touch up on the Aniraza and Kefla situation, because multiple videos were made about Kefla versus Aniraza. Geekdom did a video on it, I did a video on it, Seth did a video on it. But I think Seth probably did the best, because he actually did what we're doing right now in this video. He broke it down from a power scaling point of view and from the feats that were shown, and compared it to what happened with the actual story. Now, he brought up because this was Ultra Instinct Goku, and because this was supposedly a stronger Ultra Instinct Goku according to Dispo and Topo, that means that Kefla is stronger than Aniraza because of the power scaling point of view, because it was stated that Kefla could have killed UI Goku with one of her lasers. Now, going through the narrative structure, the fact that you have someone like Aniraza who's just merged being, I believe they even referred to him as a merged warrior, so merged Aniraza, if you will, merged Aniraza versus all these characters who are all god tier, 17, Gohan, Golden Frieza, Goku and Vegeta obviously in their blue forms. All these god tier characters banding together to fight this guy before they go up against the last final three, the big fight, if you will, right, of the Tournament of Power. It makes sense that he would be the strongest if you look at it from that point of view. And Steph brought that up. It's a very good video. You guys should go check that out. Kefla versus Aniraza. So I agree with you on that. I feel like they are following that movie, I guess, that movie scale, if you will, with each villain kind of being the strongest. I mean, once we get to, like, how do you say, towards the end, it's a bit tough because you have people like Janemba who took Gogeta to beat them, whereas like Goku in just a Super Saiyan 3 form beat Hirudegan, But that's going off of the scaling. The narrative point of view is that when you look at it, Hirudegan also beat up all these characters like Vegeta, Ultimate Gohan, you know what I mean? So it's like, from the narrative structure, yes, they are getting stronger through each movie. The same in Super, they're getting stronger in each arc.
Yeah, and I would also say that even though you're right about the Hirudegan versus the Janemba counter, or the thing, we have confirmation that those characters are supposed to be stronger and weaker than each other. Like, Janemba is supposed to be weaker than Hirudegan, at least in terms of a narrative description of their powers and the way they interact with each other. So, but the thing I think is, and I don't think that this was really that big of a deal in the Future Trunks arc, even though I think that the same rules apply to the Future Trunks arc, with Goku going in, fighting Black. Obviously, Black was stronger than Trunks, and then apparently Black became stronger than Goku and Vegeta. Vegeta became stronger than Black, but then Black became stronger. It got really, really, really messy in that arc, and I think that's where it really started getting messy, but not so much. When it comes to the Tournament of Power, though, I think this is where people have a lot of difficulty taking episode from episode, because we have characters who are fighting in the span of 48 minutes. It's weird and strange to think about people like Kale and Caulifla, who, at the time of actually going into the tournament, didn't even have their Super Saiyan forms incredibly mastered at this point. They couldn't go Super Saiyan 2. They couldn't do any of this other stuff. And then they're competing at a level at or close to Ultra Instinct, closer than when actually Goku got it before and was fighting Jiren. So yeah, like, it's weird to think that in such a small amount of time you have characters being introduced and having so much amazing power-ups, either through fusion or merging or new transformations or any of this other thing, to actually go up against these people who we've been watching for years, I mean decades really, get to the point where they're actually as strong as they are. Goku getting Ultra Instinct in the Tournament of Power is not so jarring because we've been watching Goku age and get stronger for 30 years. Kale and Caulifla fusing and being at that level is a little harder to take, especially when it happens in less than 48 minutes.
It's the same issue with Hit back in Universe 6 tournament arc, because we've seen these characters grow and get to this level, and even though they did include that Hit's been alive for 1,000 years, or I guess more than 1,000 years, people still found it as a hard pill to swallow because we just haven't seen his adventures. The story isn't centered around him, so a lot of people found it very iffy that he was like Super Saiyan Blue tier, you know what I mean?
Exactly, and I think that's one of the problems with the Tournament of Power and why people have a hard time accepting this. And personally, I've just kind of come to acknowledge it. This is the world that we live in when it comes to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super's logic, that if we want to enjoy the show, you have to kind of take it as the original Dragon Ball Z movies, where everyone that they fight next is always going to be stronger than the person they fought before. And I know a lot of people will get on me for this, and I'm just talking, like you said, narratively, when it comes to Kefla fighting Goku Ultra Instinct, and then ultimately moving from that to fighting Universe 2 and Goku taking out the last 3 people on Universe 2 as they used that black hole technique, I'm just going to go ahead and say, because of the logic that we've established here, stronger than Kefla. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's not supposed to. This is supposed to really be a situation where the person Goku fights is always going to be stronger, regardless of how exhausted Goku is or anything else that happened previously or we saw previously, because it serves the story and it helps progress Goku and break his limits to the point where he actually fights Jiren. I will make this point, I've said it so many other times on my channel, maybe if this was the purpose and what they were trying to do from the very start was to have Goku break his limits, get stronger from every single fight, maybe a Tournament of Power Battle Royale style was not the best situation or best decision to go from, because they literally had to make Goku fight every single universe that came in front of him and eliminate almost every single universe outside of just a couple of people, but literally take out everybody. That it wasn't the best idea for the show. Maybe they could have saved some time, had this be a little bit more of a long experience for everyone involved, had Goku recover from the fights, the exhaustion, and noticeably Zenkai from every single battle, but that's not the decision they went for. And if you don't take it with this grain of salt, with this knowledge that these characters are getting stronger with every passing second and being able to defeat villains who are portrayed narratively to be stronger than everyone else that they've ever come up against, then the power scaling makes no sense, and you will get lost in this complete circle of logic where it doesn't make sense, this show doesn't make sense, and yada yada yada. I think, take it with a grain of salt, take it knowing that these people are supposed to be Dragon Ball Z movie characters, and then I think you have a little bit more fun watching.
Well, to be honest, it's not really just Super in the movies either. If you think about it, this has been a long debate. You're not even a power scaler, Mark, but I'm sure you've seen this debate all over the community. Kid Buu versus Buuhan. So you had Kid Buu be the final form of Buu, right? That they fought. And the anime was even like saying, you know, this isn't in the manga, but even the anime was like telling, you know, us that this Buu is on a completely different level than all the other Buus. And then people were like, but how's that possible? He doesn't have Gohan and Piccolo inside of him. Like, why is he portrayed to be this super powerful Buu when you had Super Buu, who was, you know, who had Fat Buu in him, Evil Buu in him, Gohan in him, Goten Trunks and Piccolo in him, and it took Vegito to fight him, yet they're trying to portray to us or convey to us that Kid Buu is the strongest Buu, or at least the final antagonist, and it took like a universal spirit bomb to beat him, you know? I think it's the same with that, you know what I mean? Logically, Buuhan should be the strongest because he's the combination of all these ultimate fighters, you know what I mean? Piccolo, Super Namekian, and Super Buu, and Fat Buu, and then, you know, Gohan, Ultimate Gohan, who just had his potential unlocked. But yet, they chose Kid Buu, or Toriyama chose Kid Buu as the final Buu, who it took a Universal Spirit Bomb to defeat, you know what I mean? I think they kind of did it there, too, you know, they kind of gave a little, what am I trying to say here? They tested that, you know, with Kid Buu, in my opinion.
Yeah, and of course, like, I think one of the problems that they had there as well is that these events are taking place so quickly after one another. There's no time to breathe. There's no time in between the Battle of Gods arc, the Fakatsu no F arc, the Champa arc, where enough, even just a couple of days, at least a break where these characters get to heal and rest up and even train a little bit to the point where they go and fight another stronger person that they've ever faced before. This is happening at the exact same time, only over the course of a couple of minutes. And that's where people get really annoyed with the logic of the show and the idea that this power scaling doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't really matter to them. These things work for narrative reasons, not necessarily for power scaling reasons. And you ask me like why I'm not a power scaler, it's pretty much like that. I've really decided that that's the way Dragon Ball works ever since Dragon Ball Z, really, because it worked throughout Dragon Ball Z the exact same way. I mean, it really made very little sense if you think about it that Goku and Vegeta and Trunks couldn't take out or at least fight a Cell Jr. Like, Cell Juniors were competing at the same level as Perfect Cell makes very little sense. But it just goes like that, you know, like it's just the world that you have to live in order to accept the story that they're trying to tell. And it's kind of frustrating when you have a shonen series, a story that's completely focused on fighting and the strength of its characters, when you have the fighting and the strength of its characters be completely determinative of the story that they're trying to tell at any given point. So I guess that's like all we really have to say here, guys, is don't take Dragon Ball Super's lack of power scaling or even ridiculous power scaling too seriously, because it's working off of old school Dragon Ball Z movie rules where everyone that Goku and Vegeta come up against at any given point is stronger than the person they came up against earlier, even if that fight was only just a few minutes ago in the Tournament of Power. And if you look at it like that, at least in my opinion, I think you have a lot more fun watching this show and have a lot less time asking, how does this make sense? How does this make sense? And so on. So with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button. Go down to the description section below, hit that link, and go subscribe to MJ. Guy makes some awesome daily Dragon Ball Super content along with spoilers, reviews, discussion videos, power scaling stuff, amazing versus battle discussion topics. You're not going to want to miss those. Those are awesome. At the same time, don't forget to support the channel. Share this video out to all your friends and share your thoughts and opinions. I hope everyone has a fantastic day. It's been real.